Good evening, viewers. You're welcome to today's edition of The Law and the People, your favorite legal show. Today we'll be talking about matters that concern the people, precisely the Electoral Act 2022. Long awaited, now has been passed into law by the National Assembly, assented to by the President. We have the law with us. There has been that consistent push from civil society, from even politicians, because of relevant sectors, sections in that electoral act, that affects the electoral process. I'll just read an excerpt here. The new Electoral Act 2022. The new act was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on 25th February 2022. To repeal the Electoral Act number 6, 2010. This new act provides an evaluation of several issues being faced for a long time, which was said to be a barrier in transparency of electoral outcome and results. The general objective of the new act is to give clarity, effectiveness, ensuring free and fair election, dignity of citizens, opportunity and justice to all political participants, and justice to all political participants, whether they are voters or candidates, and ensure utmost transparency of the election process. So the question before us would be, will the 2023 election be free and fair, given that we now have this new piece of legislation that has also become not just the darling of the people, it has also become the darling of politicians. So we have in the studio a guest to join us in this conversation. However, we'll go for a short break, and after the short break, I will introduce my guest. Please stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back, viewers, to your favorite legal show, The Law and the People. So I have with me a guest in the studio. He is a deacon at Salvation Ministry, Son of Success. He is an engineer. He has also bagged the Koren Award. He is an astute builder in his own right. And of course, the times we are in, I would like to even define him as a technocrat, or perhaps he may like to be defined as a politician. I'll leave that to him. But with me in the studio is Danagogo Wenike Brigg. Sir, you're welcome to this program, The Law and the People.
My pleasure.
The Rivers people they are very happy, to have you in this program.
I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, good. You are one of the aspirants for the Guba race. You are aspiring for the position of a governor. And presently, we now have this Electoral Act in Nigeria. 2010, we had an Electoral Act. And so many people were complaining, including politicians. If you noticed, in the last election, 2019 election, there was a problem about transmission of electronic result, because INEC had said, we have this result in our server. And then the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, who then was approaching the court, said, make this information available to me. However, in the previous Electoral Act, clearly stated electronic voting is prohibited. So even the card reader as it were, could not be presented in court as evidence before the court. So we now have this new act. In your own estimation, how, of what advantage is the Electoral Act, to you or even to politicians, so to speak?
Well, we welcome the Electoral Act bill. In fact, on the day it was actually announced, I think there was quite a lot of jubilation from especially the youths and the middle class and most people. I think, I was actually with a friend, and he made a comment that the big politicians are not actually happy, and all that. But basically, the Electoral Act bill has come to stay. But one thing that we should know is that this is Nigeria. There might be curbing of rigging, but you see, you cannot actually also control electoral malpractices. That is another aspect of it. We can say we can slow down on rigging. It can actually slow down on rigging, because before we had the ballot boxes. And
okay, before we go to the, you have the pros, you have the cons, you have the advantages, you have the disadvantages, but right now, even among the political circle, especially young politicians like you, it's hooray to them. That's why I'm asking, are you excited that this act has been passed? And then how does the provisions of this act, favor you? Because there has been that assertion that the votes move directly from the polling unit. At the end of the vote, it moves directly from the polling unit to a result portal, which means nothing much is done at the collation center.
Exactly.
So some way, if you like, rigging has been curbed. So as a politician, how does that excite you?
Well, it's exciting. As I said, when the bill was passed, it brought joy to us, because even at the time of trying to deliberate.
But you don't look so excited.
No, basically we're dealing with Nigerians. We're dealing with
you're sounding very skeptical.
we're dealing
you're already going to the challenges.
We're dealing with Nigerians, and we know the way the Nigerian politics is. In as much as we're excited that this thing has come to stay, and it can actually give the Nigerian youth or the young aspirants or aspirants like me a voice, to actually come out and clearly state our vision. We also know that the people, the older persons or the older people, older politicians who are desperate, who want to be desperate about this thing, might also look for funny ways. But nevertheless, we are hoping, like over the Anambra election, it took place, and I think that it was where we saw the practice of the electronic voting system. It took place, and I think the people voted him in, because I was.
So you consider that a free?
Yeah, I consider that a free and fair election. I've seen that video over and over again, and I've tried to look through to see, okay, where could be the point of strike, but everything is.
So permit me, if you take Anambra now as the lab rats,
yes,
in the bigger election coming up in 2023, don't you think that it will play out in the same manner?
Definitely. That's why I said, looking at Anambra.
Yeah.
Now, the fact is that if Nigeria wants to go forward, they will stick to it. But looking at also the big country like the Western world, Donald Trump and Biden, we could see that it's still electronic voting system. We could see that there was still some
skirmishes
here and there, and that made me to understand that no matter how 100% it may look, there's still a 10% of check, and this, in our own way, we will now manually see how we can checkmate those things in all the polling units, in all the points of where, even if we are privileged to be in at the point of where the server is going to be, we will be able to checkmate, because you see, electronic voting has its parts, but
so
manually
let
we
me
have
ask
to.
a critical question.
Yeah.
Now, political parties are stakeholders in all this reform.
Exactly.
To see that in their interest, election is free and fair. But we've not seen political parties come out to, do voter education, voters enlightenment, so to speak. And then these critical issues you're raising about how there may be 10% or 5% possibilities of manipulation and compromise of the system. So I mean, what are political parties doing about it, if you can speak from your own angle?
Well, in terms of my own angle, or my party, the platform, it's part of our plan. It's part of our plan, which we are going to start taking effect from the next 6 months, seeing how to enlighten people and how to make people understand that this Electoral Act bill is a platform that could help or give the youth a voice. Because basically, looking at other political parties, I myself have asked that question. Now, asking that question is like we all know the answer. Why these things are not being moved, why other political parties are not pushing it in, because basically it almost seems, in my own opinion, that are you sure they want to do a free and fair election? Because if you want to do a free and fair, even looking at the INEC registration, they said the time is going to be, it has been extended to the ending of June. But I would have suggested, or I would have given an opinion, that there would have been some level of constant advert, putting it in the faces of the youth, making them, reminding them and all that. But it's more little, advert through the social media that is going on. So I think that, in Nigeria is a gap.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a gap that has not been harnessed, because you see, Americans spend over $20 billion a year on adverts in a particular publication, just to put it in the face and in the minds of people, because people reason through their minds, through pictures, and pictures affect their mind, and through what they hear. So if these things are being put out, it will affect the people, and it will give them that awareness that the Electoral Act is going to be possible. But people are still doubting it, because our problem so far is that we have the youths are given the opportunity to come and register, but they've had this mind. It's not like a dogma where people now believe that their vote will not be counted. So through the aspect of publicity, adverts, it will help the youths recapitalize their mind into the fact that their vote will be counted.
Do you, in your estimation, let's take you up from the path of a youth. Do you think that youths have the same fair playing ground with other politicians? Because we've had a system of vote buying. Just in this concluded PDP primaries, Punch calls it the dollarization of delegates. So there is a threat, there's a forecast that in the upcoming 2023 election, since the electronic devices, the bimodal machine, may not be easily manipulated, then the easy way out will be, to buy the votes. And given the financial strength of upcoming youths and the other politicians, on that financial basis, do you think there is a fair playing ground? And if you say no, what are the youths who are running doing about it to ensure a fair playing ground in their own advantage?
Thank God you said if you said no, because yes, no, there is no ground when it comes to financials within the youths and an existing politician that has been in government or has been in some level of
because
sector.
If there is no fair playing ground, how can the youth take over power? So that's a concern.
The youth can only take over power by constant repetition and making their vision and their policies known. this thing has to do with buying the mind. It has to do with making the youth see their future, shifting them from what they initially are seeing to what actually they can see. Often the people know that okay, River State can actually be as beautiful as Dubai, because all they are saying is that initial 5,000, initial 10,000, it was not, they didn't grow with it, they learnt it, so they can unlearn it. And this can only be possible when the youths, it was possible with NSAS. It just started in Lagos small and it spread around the entire nation.
So the question begging for an answer is, who takes the initiative for this paradigm shift? Because an idea will not work itself. So what is being done? Because we have a situation where the unemployment level is at the lowest ebb. River State is ranking highest in Nigeria on matters of unemployment, as statistics show. So that tells you that the poverty rate is way high. And then survivor mentality, there's a tendency for people to get what they can immediately. So what is that deliberate effort being made to shift the mind of the people to patiently walk through the electoral process with dignity, with morality, standing up to vote for ideas and reaping the benefits in the future? So do you think any deliberate effort is being made on mind shifts?
It depends on individuals. When you say deliberate effort, using myself as an example, deliberately I have made efforts and I'm still making efforts. How? Through speaking to the youths, meeting them, trying to give them the reasons and giving them solutions to challenges. It's not about there's no nation or there's no state that does not have challenges. Like I don't see security. A lot of people say we have insecurity issues. We don't have insecurity issues. If you go to America, they kill people every 1 hour. Just some weeks ago, 19 people were shot. Before then, some people were shot in Buffalo in New York. Then we now had another one again. So you see, these crimes are everywhere. It's just so sad that in terms of River State, the media has not been able, or the government have not created policies to actually reduce most of the things that are being aired out that has to do with damaging the economy and damaging the reputation of the state and the nation. You understand? Hardly, I think Lagos is trying on that aspect because crimes happen there. But 1 or 2 times I've heard from very respected people how these things are being slowed down so that it does not affect, because it tends to be a commercial city. Now the aspect of we as youths, deliberately it has to do with individuals who are standing up to the truth. America was built by people standing for something and not people going for the next election. It depends on each somebody like me, I am standing for a system that can actually change the society.
Okay, before we go for a short break, let me ask you this question. In your estimation, we have way up to 8 million persons in River State, statistics show, and then maybe half could be youths. I'm not sure about that. Now, you said you've been reaching out to 1 or 2 youths. Do you think that, the first question will be, how many youths have you been able to talk to in your estimation? Then do you think that you've been able to reach enough youths and this change you're talking about, or this paradigm shift you're talking, because see the heroic welcome. I won't say further. But it was the youth that took the initiative. So, and they celebrate all of this vote buying, even in these states. So the parameters, the analysis are not showing any change. So between now and the election, who takes the initiative? I'll leave it as a food for thought. Dear viewers, we're still speaking on the law and the people, and we're talking about the Electoral Act 2022. How does the Electoral Act benefit the people, the political parties, the politician, and even you as a citizen of Nigeria? This is a chance where your votes will count. We'll go for a short break, and after the short break, we will open the lines so that you can call in to make your comments. I still have with me in the studio Danagogo, Wenike, Brigg. We go for this short break. We'll be right back.
With a gradual lifting of COVID-19 restrictions across the country, life seems to be returning to something close to normal. But is it really? The coronavirus is still out there and remains deadly and highly contagious, and only too willing to strike again and again and again. Do not drop your guard. Maintain good personal hygiene, avoid overcrowded places, and more significantly, get vaccinated. Remember, it's never over till it's completely over. This is a message from the Silverbird Group.
Welcome back, viewers, to this edition of The Law and the People, and today we're talking about the Electoral Act 2022, an exciting act that, like I said before we went for the break, that will make your votes count. Why did I say so? I said so because there is a new machine called a bimodal machine. It will be used during the election for identification of persons and also for authentication of those persons. So the accreditation process will be, very, precise. Fingerprints, facial recognition. So that will be done, and then when votes are eventually counted, the votes will be sent straight to INEC results portal, which means that most likely, if that machine is not manipulated one way or another, which the likelihood we think is not, is rarely there, then your votes will count. So the phone lines will be opened up immediately. We expect you to call, and let's have your comments, and let's have also questions. So we still have in the studio Wenike Brigg. Mr. Wenike Brigg, what's your perspective on this internal wrangling in internal party democracy? We've seen so many primaries. There has been an allegation that Danagogo is now in custody because of his interest, to run as an aspirant to the governorship position. And then at the national level, we see Rochas Okorocha, who also has interest to to run for the position of the president, also in custody. About yesterday he was released. What's your perception of this battles internally in different political parties?
Okay, in terms of that, in my own opinion, and the way I look at it, is a system. Nigeria should have a system that is bigger than the people. and not the people being bigger than the system. You know, if you travel out, maybe in America or in London, you see the British Prime Minister. Sometimes he rides a bicycle. You see ministers or governors in the train with every other person. They might just have a section and all that, but they're in the public train because the system that has put in place is bigger than whoever is in that what they call it, metropolis. But in the aspect of in Nigeria, you see, most people are bigger than the system. That's why somebody can actually, be involved in a crime and comfortably sit in a house because he has, connection here and there, and he can actually make moves. Even if they are caught, there is no, there's no too much of stressing themselves that because they know they can just pay here, and all that.
And regular out of it. Once, I think, a long time ago, there was somebody who was bringing out his bill out of his front pockets, right in front of him. So there's no fear or respect for the system. Singapore today created policies that actually affected because they wanted to grow human capacity. So how did they do that? They had to create policies that will help the government, help their individuals, and in doing that, those policies help to guide. So are you saying that political parties, because this whole thing is internal political wrangling, or if you like, lack of internal political democracy? In fact, I had a friend that came to contest for one of the positions from the United States of America. Part of the challenge he had was that he was also not being screened. So are you saying political parties should have policies to ensure that persons who are running for political positions must be screened? I mean, that's the problem. So how do we solve that problem?
Yes, it is right that persons who are running for political position must be screened. The people who are screening too, you see, everything falls back to policy. What is that political party? What is their policy? What is their constitution? What is guiding them? Because every government in any aspect of the world is binding on a constitution. Even religion binds on the constitution. The constitution to the Christian is the Bible. The constitution for the Muslim is the Quran. The constitution for Buddha is the Buddha.
Okay, we don't have so much time. I'd like to ask you this question quickly. Can we get your opinion on zoning? Zoning, like we know, where the constitution does not say anything about zoning, and then the clamor, the talk about zoning has been there. PDP has been able to settle its issues one way or another. APC also has the problem, and various political parties may have that problem. What's your take on zoning, quickly?
Number one, is it the government that is going to now put it in the constitution and that will affect political parties? Political parties are actually entities that stand alone. So should the government put it and say, okay, political parties should have and make sure that zoning, and they will bind it with the constitution, or they allow the political parties who should also know that, are we looking at who is going to rule or who is going to change the nation?
So you're talking about competence. That's your...
Exactly. Competence should be the watchword, not zoning. Now, even if you want to zone to that area, then there are over how many million people, men who are politicians, who look for who is competent, not who has more money.
Thank you very much, Danagogo Wenike Briggs. It's been lovely having this conversation with you. We hope to have you, some other time.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Exactly.
So, good people of River State, we've been talking about the Electoral Act 2022. The innovations in the act are interesting. They are innovations that are for the good of the people. So we're looking at an election where your votes will actually count. So come next week, we'll be enlightening you deeper on the Electoral Act, so that we'll see those innovations and provisions that work for you, and also to give you voter education that will enlighten you and prepare you for the 2023 election. So until next week, I remain your host, Courage Nsirimovu. Have a lovely week. Thank you.
Only one beauty pageant spawned the first Miss World from Black Africa. Only one pageant births 5 titles in one night. Only one pageant.
Thursday, May 13, 2022 has already gone.